Hello and welcome everyone in Unima Puppeteer Trust India's Anubhav Edition 4. So we welcome you all the way from across the world, India, everywhere, and I hope there is lots of participation from every corner of the world. So there is a few quick announcements before starting the session. I request everyone, whoever joining during the meeting, please keep your mic and video off during the session. And you can put your comments or query in the chat box during the session. We will open the house for Q&A in the last 20 minutes of the session. And then we will invite your questions for the presenter. And as this session is 1 hour long and it's a very limited time, and for that I made a sincere apology in advance that if your query is not being taken, so you can reach out later to us on the email, that is puppeteertrust@gmail.com, or to the presenter, which we will put the email in the chat box to you. You can see that email in the chat box. Thank you. So welcome to Unima India Puppeteer Trust, and let me introduce a little brief about Unima India. Unima India, now known as Unima Puppeteer Trust India, which is the national center of the International Association of Puppeteers. It is a platform for exchange and networking to share between people who practice puppetry, work on this art, and are passionate about this art. Unima Union International de la Marionette is present more than 90 countries. It is the oldest international theater organization in the world, and it is a non-government organization affiliated to UNESCO. Its members, who came from all over the world, contribute to the development of puppetry arts. It also supports meetings, conferences, festivals, exchanges, and collaborations opportunities to operate with people in all areas of puppetry, therapy, teaching, training, research, documentation, collection, exchanges, etc., and supports collecting and distributing information and publications about research courses and workshops. And Anubhav is one of the attempt from Unima Puppeteer Trust India, which says the sharing of the experience from the veteran, which is called Anubhav, the sharing of the veteran practitioners, puppeteers, masters from tradition and contemporary practices, explorer, trainers, therapists, filmmaker, inspite all possible discipline in the realm of performing and puppetry arts. So today, in the 4th edition of the Anubhav, we have the veteran practitioner, our guest all the way from Westflügel Figurentheater, which is musician Charlotte and Michelle, puppet maker. And now I invite my co-host, Madam Ratnamala-ji, who is also a senior Unima member and my co-host, to introduce today's guest. And over to you, Ratnamala ma'am. Thank you.
Namaste. Namaste. On behalf of Unima Puppeteers Trust India, it is my pleasure to welcome master puppeteers and introduce them to our 4th Anubhav session. For our first Anubhav session, we had master puppeteers Dadi Padamji and Puran Bhatt, who gave us a lot of information and their experiences about their journey. For our second session, we had the work of late M.R. Ranganathan, their sons M.R. Srinivas, and his whole family gave us a lovely picture of the work of M.R. Ranganathan and Gombe Atta from Karnataka. And our third session, we went to West Bengal, where master puppeteer Sudeep Gupta gave us a lot of insight into his journey of how he has worked with contemporary puppetry. So now we have master puppeteers from across the world. And it is my pleasure to introduce Charlotte Wilde musician, and Michael Vogel, puppeteer and puppet maker, who started their company, Figurentheater, in 1997, first in Stuttgart, and from 2003 in Leipzig. Wilde and Vogel are co-founders of the International Center for Animated Theatre Westflügel, Puppetry and Live-Music, and the artistic means of Wilde and Vogel's theatre. Themes and dramatic material for the production are manifold. There are always questions concern the adequate means of expression, which is reduced to the essence to open room for imagination beyond the visible for the audience. Apart from classical drama, Hamlet, Faust, Orpheus, Salomé, and adaptations of novels, Krabat, The Hobbit, and Frankenstein, musical material until Doomsday, Toccata, or poetry, Spleen, songs for Alice, and there's also a group of performances which are based on original themes, Siberia, the sensibility of the giants, dust, Kukułka. Cooperation with directors and colleagues from artistic fields are essential for Wilde and Vogel, and there are several international productions. Since 2007, Westflügel Leipzig has been the premier theatre and also co-producer of all Wilde and Vogel plays. FITZ Stuttgart has been partner and co-producer since 1997. Tours, international tours to more than 30 different countries in Europe, America, and Asia, amongst others for the Goethe Institute. Festivals, amongst others, International Puppet Theatre Festival, Erlangen, Vienna, Bochum, Unidrum Festival, Potsdam, Fringe, Reckling, Heusen Festival, Mondial, Charleville, Mézières, Attention Festival. Forgive my pronunciation. Puppets, music direction for other prestigious theatres, cooperations with more prestigious companies, and awards in plenty. Awards are numerous for productions, amongst others, International Puppet Festival of Adult Puppet Theatre 2001, Pix Hungary, International Festival Bielsko, Biela, Poland 2002 and 2008, International Festival Spectaculo Interes 2003, Ostrava, Czech Republic, Theatre Press der Stuttgart, der Zeitung 2007, International Puppet Theatre Festival Warsaw 2009, George Tabori Award 2013. And I may have missed some more awards too. And of course, workshops, plenty of workshops, and amongst others at Academia Teatrania, Bielsko, forgive my pronunciation, Warsaw, Stockholm, Trinity College, Hartford, Connecticut, Tusco Polytechnic and Arts Academy, Muhlenberg College, Allentown, Pennsylvania, and Michael Vogel was teacher at the Department of Puppetry, Stuttgart from 1998 to 2006. So this is in very brief an introduction of our two master puppeteers for today. I extend a very warm welcome to both of you, and we look forward to getting into your adventure into puppetry. Thank you so much. Over to you, Manish. Manish?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes.
And now we have our guest here. We welcome Charlotte and Michelle. So over to you. So first of all, thank you for joining us today session in Unima Puppeteer Trust Anubhav 4. And we would like you to present your work. We want to, we are interested in knowing your journey more. So now stage is yours, mic is yours. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Manish. First, hello. My name is Charlotte Wilde. Michael Vogel. Michael is in English would be Michael, so the pronunciation in German is just very strange. Thank you very much for the invitation. We are happy to connect to your country so far away from us again. The reason I think is also because we will be working in Bangalore with the Rangashankara Theatre in July and August, and we are preparing a production together, which is very exciting and wonderful for us. We will try to give a short overview of our work, connecting to what has been said already, share just a very few videos, and Michael will also show some of his puppets as far as possible here in our living room and not on the stage, not at work. Yes, we started working together already when we were still studying. And then in 1997, Michael did his diploma at the university, the Department for Puppetry in Stuttgart. And the diploma performance was already a dramatic theme. We did a Hamlet performance together. Important to mention, I'm not a puppeteer. I'm the musician in our company. And for the diploma, Michael asked if I would like to join with the guitar, and maybe we can do the show together. So we did. The director was Frank Söhnle, who was then also a regular teacher at the department in Stuttgart, who was a very wonderful puppeteer himself, also very skilled marionette player and performer. So we did the show based on Hamlet, which is called Exit. And it turned out very nicely, and we toured a lot with the show.
Also in India.
Also in India, a long time ago, 20 years, I think. So it was, we were brave enough to continue together. So that was really our start, already as a solo or duo show with just one puppeteer on the stage and one musician on the side. It already used few words, although it was Shakespeare. I used an electric guitar, which allowed me to use electronic effects, which was turned out later to be very important for my theater musical work. We always, since then, always worked with a director. So we never just work with the two of us or just with performers. It's very important for us to have somebody from the outside. But we usually choose the director ourselves, and also usually choose the theme. In a few cases also, the director colleague has proposed a theme or a subject, and we joined together for that. We need a director who has a good view on puppets and puppetry, and we need a director who has a good ear for the music. One of our directors, Christiane Zanger, who we worked with a lot, is already also a musician. She studied music earlier on. But of course, it's not necessary. It's just important for us to have somebody who can take the different levels of the show into account and not only work with text. We also cooperate with many artists also from other fields. They can be puppeteers, they can be actors, but also dancers, also musicians. So in all those years, we only made 5 shows together with just the two of us. So most of the shows are collaborations with other groups or other artists. The very old shows don't have a good video or even photo material. So we decided to begin with to share with you the trailer for a show we did in 2006, which connected to 2 duo shows we did in the years before. So this was a work with Hendrik Mannes, who is one of the 2 directors we worked with most. And it's based on poems in prose by Charles Baudelaire. So for those of you who are not so familiar with Baudelaire, of course, he wrote poems most of the time. And there's one work which is called Poems in Prose. So it's very short little stories who are very poetic, nevertheless. And so in this show, the form is in a way quite conventional. So we have a show like numbers, which are of course dramaturgically connected. But they have so it's short scenes that they have a beginning and an end, and then the next scene is being followed. What we'll show you is the trailer for the show, because it's just so much more useful than skipping through a full-length video. You can find this trailer and others, of course, on our homepage, and I put the homepage address in the chat in the beginning. So if you are interested to see more, you can check later. Okay, after this, Michael will show some puppet live. Now I'll start the video, and I hope it works well for everybody.
Okay. This is from a very old show with what we still very much like to perform, and I would like to start, because the question very often is how you make the puppets and where are the puppets coming from. So there's it's always a long way, and I try never to have an idea of the whole scene or something. So very often I start to build a puppet, and then very later on it appears in a show. And one of these characters, I brought you this one here. that's a little character I started to build for a new show, what maybe will appear now in a new show. So so he looks like this. And he can move from like this, like a trick character. And why I show you that so I don't know if I can hold this in the camera. So this is a material that I make by myself out of clay and dust and wood from the wood saw, and out of the material out of the hoover. And after a while, so I play around with these materials, and I play around with also the technique. So what is how you call that?
The joints.
The joints. So how I will construct these points here, And then I go in a kind of a dialogue with this character, and I try to find out what he wants and how he would like to move. The dialogue also goes on then with the color. So here is a little bit of red color, and I don't try to use the color just to paint so also to use the material of the color to connect it with the whole structure. So in the end, I don't know really what is the joint. Or what is color, or what is the material. Here inside there is Draht, that's wire. Sometimes it's wood inside. So it's all a mixture of materials and ideas and movements. And I always play around in that time. And very often now it goes off. So it's interesting that for this, the whole thing can go off in pieces. It has maybe then also some, we'll have an idea for the whole scene then, this kind of dialogue, what happens now. I also can take that on again. And so he's like this, and I have a hat now here. So exactly what's happening here happens in the workshop, and this kind of a game goes on then also in the rehearsals. And the most beautiful moments are then with the director together, or with Charlotte together, or with a text, with a story, what comes from the other side, if it meets then all together. So to meet, for example, this little guy here, at the moment, I also don't know yet the story or the theater piece that he will have, but it will come out. I'm sure. Well, this is just a little bit. So we will see what will happen. Maybe in some years you will see that. So also this little technique. It's half a marionette here. I make a little structure there, a little mechanical thing. I thought, it could be nice if you can move the mouth, and so it's. I don't know. Is it a marionette? Will it be a shadow puppet? It could be also a nice shadow puppet here. And for there in the back, I have another. I brought you one. This is from the other Baudelaire show we did then 20 years later. What you have seen in the video, and this is a cat, and I started. I would like to carry on with a kind of a cat. I showed. So this is a more complex character now. It's not made for the camera. It's made for the theater stage. So this cat is not used to perform in front of a camera. And also with Charlotte, can you put it more down? I can show it here. I just show it quickly to you. Yeah.
So lovely.
This is so. Also, then in the rehearsals, I still go on to find out what it wants and how this puppet can be constructed, and the dialogue goes on then with the director and the musician, and I still go on with building. So the rehearsal is is like the workshop. It goes, there's no for me, there's no difference. So when I get more known about this character, then all these marionette things, the classical marionette things, will change also. And oh, you can see the dead cat. Yeah, maybe is that so the whole thing gets a character now, yeah. So the marionette who's holding their own strings, and I never know what will happen next, yeah. Even now, but I try always to follow this puppet and the material. So maybe that's for the first step here.
Great. So here I can we can have a question for you. Thank you for this lovely presentation of your puppets and material. So as you say that your company is Figurentheater and you are a puppet maker and musician came together, and your work has seen so far indulged with so much multidisciplinary thing. So music is there, camera is there, technology is there, multiple material is there, objects, materials. So the idea of Figurentheater, what is your vision behind this? Is it puppetry? Is it object, material? So the vision behind the Figurentheater.
I will give over to you also, but I think one thing is we choose a theme which we think is appropriate or is a theme that needs puppets or figures or masks. Of course, yeah, Michael doesn't only use puppets, but other, sometimes material, sometimes masks. But one of our, I think, important, I don't know if I would call it vision, but one of the important things we take into account before we start producing a show, is this a theme that needs puppetry? Because other than that, we just like to make good theater shows. That's our aim in life. And because I'm a musician and Michael is a puppeteer, we need themes or stories that need music and puppets. Otherwise, we leave it for other people to do, as, for example, a theater show with actors or a dance show. Maybe you can go on.
Yeah, it's a nice question and a huge theme. The first thing what came into my mind, that what also Charlotte said, is to work out of the materials and then to find all these combinations of poetry or literature, music, modern art, dance, to find how these things can meet. And for me, because I'm not a dancer, so then I meet a dancer, is the first thing is to meet the material. And I have this, I brought you this for just a little to make it maybe more clear. This is a old balloon, a huge balloon material, very thin, and you can use this material already to what I like in that to play with that. So I'm starting with also like not just to find out what could be this material tell me, and what kind of poem could meet there with my hand there, and yeah, all these structures, the sounds and everything. And so in a way to stop my brain to have any ideas, oh, I would like to do this and that and that and that, to come to this point, not to have an idea, only to follow more from the other side, from the material. What does it want? What does it what it can do here all the time, and where is it good for? Yeah, and maybe this is something with this stopping to have any ideas about the world, more to ask the world what it wants, what it needs from me. That comes into my mind at first.
Maybe we can show a second video. It fits quite well to this question and to the question of material. Another show we did just in a duet is called Siberia. We produced it in 2015, and it was after a visit to Siberia. We did a production there and were able to spend 6 weeks in Western Siberia. And there were motifs there that we were interested in: the vast country, the loneliness, the being in a country where you don't feel at home. And then also we found the link to poems by Ossip Mandelstam, which are then used in the production later. Christiane Zanger, who I mentioned earlier on, the musician, the former musician, was the director of this. And I think also in the trailer, which I will share with you, you can see that it's a broader use of materials than you saw in the Spleen. I share again.
Amazing. Very good.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Shall we have another question? We have one more video we would like to share, which is a work in a bigger group with dancers and musician and puppeteer. But maybe we can have another question in between.
Yeah, of course, we can have. So there's question in chat box already. So another question I can take it for. It is, what age group do you often play for, given that your show is a fusion of several forms of performance art, such as puppetry, theater, light, sound, among other things?
I didn't understand everything, but
So,
what age group?
like,
we are
what age group do you, what age group?
Everybody, but the shows we show to you now are for adults. So most of our productions are for adults. And then we also did shows for children. And we did shows which are like good for everybody.
And another question is, during the puppet show, what sort of concept or topic matter would you be emphasizing?
I don't understand the question. Do you?
No.
Like the idea, maybe Padmini ma'am,
Yes,
maybe you can
yes,
explore.
yes. It is. What kind of a theme do you select, or what concepts do you select, or you emphasize on for your production work? Like you had a Siberian one, and previous one you showed us too. So, what is it? How do you select the concept, or how is it derived?
Very, very often also there it's more the other way to do a Siberia show. There are people coming together, there are coming materials, ideas coming together. Also very often with the director already from the beginning on, and then the themes come together. That's the first thing I think of. Very often I could remember that the shows started from the people who are connected to that. Also with the dancers, there are 3 dancers we met, or they ask if we can do something together, and then out of this construction with musicians, there also comes then the theme.
But I would like to add, it's not always like that.
Yeah, okay.
We did a show, The Hobbit, where we just did straightforward. We used the Tolkien novel of The Hobbit, and then got together and then worked hard on the dramatization of the novel. And this was the case also in other projects. We also did a show called Songs for Alice, where we said we want to do something on Alice in Wonderland, but we also knew that it shouldn't be storytelling, because we think that the Alice in Wonderland novel doesn't really tell a story. It has all these strange characters and so on. And so in the end, we decided to choose the song texts or the poems from the novel and did something like a concert show. So it's a mix of what Michael said and what I said. Sometimes we have a story and we try to set it on stage with puppets and music. And sometimes we have an idea, but then during the work, it turns out how it can work nicely. So with the Songs for Alice, it was like that. And then also we have some productions that didn't have a story or something like that. We have one production called Dust, which is a collaboration with 2 people from Israel, and our history of Germany with Israel, or the Jewish people of the world. You all know we have the Holocaust in the background and the Second World War. And these are 2 colleagues who are puppeteers, and we met on a festival, and we were interested in each other's work and said we can do something on our common history. And this was a project which had a very, very difficult and very long rehearsal period, because it was very, very hard to find out how we can put this aim to do something on our history together on stage. But it turned out, with the help of the director, it turned out also a nice production where we tell stories from our families. So we don't really mention the Holocaust, or hardly mention it, but just because we are on stage together and we tell stories from our families, it's on stage. So there also, during rehearsals, the structure and the project really developed on the stage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This goes, I have a thing, like you're sometimes, as you said, it's for adults. It's a bit sometimes scary also, isn't it?
It's scary.
Yeah, a little bit, the figures and all.
We don't believe that that what the people see in the theater has to be only entertaining. We like to entertain people. We don't want them to be bored. But I would say there's so much smooth surface pop Disney culture in the world, which is all very nice. We like to also have maybe a rough surface. We don't want to scare people, And of course, the children's shows would look a bit different, especially Siberia is definitely not a show for children. That would definitely be scary, but for adults,
Yes,
we
it's not
think they
for
shouldn't be
adults.
scared. If you think of
Yes,
the movies,
yes.
people watch not with the scary people.
Right.
Yeah,
So
maybe we show the third video, which is one yet a completely different project. It's quite a recent one. We did it in 2020, and then the premiere was cancelled because of the corona. But so it's not our most recent, but a very recent show. And this is a collaboration with the dance group Michael mentioned. The director was a choreographer who is also uses to work, also always works with the dance company. And we have a puppeteer from Vienna called Christoph Bochdanski, and a second musician who is actually also a puppeteer called Stefan Wenzel, and then the company of Verticality from Austria, from Linz. I'll show you the trailer.
And the space that you see, that's the Westflügel in Leipzig, or so the place where we are performing and rehearsing.
Jetzt wird's gleich Ups machen. Ach ja, der Tod will uns verderben, wir müssen alle sterben. Den Lebensfaden kurz und knapp schneidet er mit seinem Messer. Ja, den Lebensfaden kurz und knapp schneidet er mit seinem Messer.
Beautiful. Great experience.
So we
we
would be ready for more questions.
great.
So in this video, I find nice that you can see the puppets and the big space. So for myself, it's always astonishing that I get smaller and smaller, and the puppets in getting with the dialogue with this huge space. So as a puppeteer, I didn't start to build puppets who are very huge and fill the space. So I got smaller and smaller in this space.
It seems very exciting that this single head is flying all together. So yeah, it's very fascinating. So we can take another question from the chat box. It says, what I have always
Manish, I can.
loved. Yes,
ask the
yes, ma'am.
question.
Yes, please.
Really love about your work, and I think I've seen Alice, seen Spleen, and I wish we could have all seen it live, because it's not the same as a video, is it? And what really fascinates me is how in your shows, I believe this very strongly, that all of us who play puppets, we do it so that we can almost transport people into other possible realities. And it really happens in your shows. Sometimes it's dystopic, sometimes it's another reality. And I know music is a very big factor, and your sculptures are a very big factor, and the puppets and the movement. What else? What else do you use to create this world? You just mentioned the dimension of the space? Is there anything else specifically in the design?
I look at other artists, fine artists, a lot, how they use colors and rhythm and what kind of materials they are using. That's I would not say that they are inspiring me, but they have impulses. They get impulses how to carry on in the work.
Yeah.
Also the biographies of them, how they change. So you can start somewhere, but then it's interesting what is the way that you are doing. So, and I'm listening also to a lot of music in the workshop all the time. Yes.
I would also like to mention our colleagues because, as I said, we only did 5 duets in all these years. We are very, very interested in working with other people, and it's, of course, we need to find people where we are quite sure that it will work out together, because we don't usually do more than 1 production in a year, maybe 2. So it's a big project. We need to apply for money when we want to do a show and so on, all these processes. But also we try to find people and get together with people who will bring something new and something else than we bring and so on. So I think it's a very important thing for us to be inspired during rehearsals by the colleagues.
Yeah, it's always a dialogue.
Yes.
And it's in the dialogue, what's happened in the dialogue, that's interesting. A monologue is never interesting there. So that's the wonderful thing, and a big present to our in the work and our work, that to find it out, or to find it in the other one, not in yourself. You have to, yeah. So that's nice. That's to get inspired by the other one.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. So maybe Padmini ma'am, would you be interested to ask another question in the chat box? That is,
maybe you can open to the audience, whoever has joined. If they have any questions, they're free to ask.
and you can put a question in the chat box.
Yeah. I shall also.
Meanwhile,
meanwhile, okay, right. Anybody who is who wants to ask are free to ask. We have our guests here, so we can interact with them.
You can raise your hand, or you can put your question in the chat box. Meanwhile, we moving to the next question.
So I just have one thing to ask, because I keep, whenever I watch the way you're working or similar kind, what benefits do you think it incorporates when we use a human body, space, and theatrical performance? Like how best and puppetry for educating students? What kind of what changes or what kind of development can we look into when we are looking from this kind of training?
In the work with students?
With kind of a work that you do with the music, with the body, with the space and theatrical performance and puppetry. If we have to train students, what kind of benefits from your point of view do you think they get?
It depends, I think. Maybe you can say something about your string puppet work in Stuttgart.
Yeah,
I can say something of our production.
So, of course, this is also very complex. One very simple thing is follow the material, follow the movement from the material, and get inspired by that. And that's something that you're not starting with your brain now to say the material, please do that and that you work, material, do something with me. so to train not this direction, to train that direction. and then if you start to believe then in that, what it's happening there, that's the best moment, and then nothing can go wrong, I would say. It's just our pressure that we are doing too much to the material or to the world. And that I would say, and there are some little training things that you can train that, or that you know, okay, now I'm controlling the material, or when is the material controlling me in a way. It's not so 100%. The best thing if it's in a balance, because of course I have to start to control it. If I don't control that, bring some energy in, then nothing is happening. So, but very often human beings are trying to control the things in Europe. I don't know. I'm looking forward how it will be in India. That I would say that's a basic training with young people to that they get trust in that they can believe in that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have another question in the chat box from Chalti Ghosh. What leads your creation process, the puppets of the theme or a combination? How do you make dramaturgical decision while striking a balance between sometimes the puppet leading or the theme leading the playmaking process?
I would say it's different answers depending on, do we look at the show as a whole or as a single, or on a single scene in the show, for example. So I think in the single scene, Michael already answered just before, because it's always basically it's the material or the puppet or the mask, it's leading. But once we start rehearsing, Michael has built things, but the workshop is next to the stage. So whenever things need to be changed, they will be changed. And they might need to be changed for technical reasons, of course, because something is too difficult on the stage or not visible or something like that. But it can also have dramaturgical or thematical reasons. So speaking about a production on the whole, once we set a theme, and we usually do start with some kind of theme, we have to really, really stay true to the theme. So everything that maybe looks nice, is funny or beautiful, but doesn't have something to do with the theme and doesn't help to bring the theme on stage, it will be thrown out. So already very early, I remember in '98, we made a show for children, Nils Holgersson, which is a story about a boy who's traveling with geese. It's a very pleasant story for children. And we had a very beautiful object on the stage that looked also like a moon, right? And we were very in love with this thing. And the director said, at one day she had enough, and she said, yes, this thing is absolutely beautiful. You can put light on it and it will be like a dream, but it has nothing to do with our story. It's out now. And I think these decisions are also always necessary, and we need somebody from the outside to do these decisions and say, this has nothing to do with what we want to tell. It has to be out. So it can happen with full puppets. Michael built a beautiful marionette, and it will be not in the show because during rehearsals, it turns out that it's not helpful. It distracts or whatever, can be different reasons. And the last thing, maybe because I'm the musician, the music can also lead. So for example, when we did The Hobbit, which was really hard work, because I don't know how many of you have read the book or even watch the films that are too long. It's a huge book. And it was not easy to put it into 1 hour of theater or 90 minutes. What I did in the music was really, really film music in this case. It was too tempting and too wonderful. The story was too full and rich with motifs, not to make this big film music. And in this case, I was finished with the music much earlier than the people on stage. It's Michael and another puppeteer performing. So I remember that halfway through the rehearsal process, we had a little performance where I performed the complete music for the show. And the director said, okay, so now we have to live up to this. I'm saying that not to say how beautiful I did. It's so much easier, of course, yeah, to create fantastic worlds with some instruments and some electronic effects. So in that case, the music was the guideline, or it was, we had to live up with the visible things on the stage, live up to this standard the music set earlier on. So that can also happen.
Thank you for we have I can see two similar questions, so we can take it together. Is there a trailer of your children or family performance to watch? And there is another question which is like similar. Can you please show other kind of puppets apart from the skeleton structure puppets, for example, puppet made out of balloon material?
Puppets made out of what?
The stretchy balloon material you were showing. That, yeah.
We can show the pig, and we can show a trailer of the Hobbit because we just talked about it. Maybe it's a good idea, but we see the live puppet first.
That's a funny thing. It's a little bit the other way around, because this can be all very scary if I use it as a mask around my mouth. But in the rehearsals, came out that it would be nice to have a little pig. And so in the workshop and out of the rehearsals and in the dialogue with the director, it's always a huge dialogue with the director in the end. This little animal came out. So I used this material for the for this little glove puppet. It's not finished. It's in the rehearsal, this puppet. So you are the first one you can see that out of the workshop. So I started to bring this material on this pig, and so it's this one. Needs the camera to find the camera here. Okay, now. Okay.
Oh.
So also here I'm experimenting with these ears. And let's see what will happen then with this. With this material here. Okay, is this a little bit in your direction of the question?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So it's a very, very simple one here.
So I'll share the trailer for The Hobbit so you can see what we also talked about, and you can see a show for children. It's from 8 years, so it's not for little children, as the story for The Hobbit is really not for small children. Okay. I need to share, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
In einer Höhle unter der Erde, da lebte ein Hobbit. Ja. man denn für ein Abenteuer? Ich hab ihn! Weit über die Nebelberge kalt, Kerkern tief und Höhlen alt, müssen wir ziehen jeden Tag gedreht, zu suchen das bleich verwunschene Gott.
Amazing.
So this is more of it's a really family happening show. So the whole family with grandparents, children, and everybody can come and have really
Excellent.
fun.
Excellent show.
Thank you. There is one more question in the chat box. Maybe we can see that also. And we are running out of time. And after that, we can take only one last question. The question from Dharanya. I saw skeleton appears repeatedly in your themes. What possibly does it give you in building your narrative? What possibility does it give you in building in your narrative?
The skeleton.
Yeah. This is very simple. That's the biggest contrast that we can have between life and death in puppet theater. So the skeleton who gets life, that's a basic thing. I never think of that, but from outside I would say that's it. Why there very often it looks like, oh, it's alive. I have the biggest fun with that moment, but in technically building the things, it's always like a dead structure, like a leaf or something, and then you bring something life in that. It's the closest thing in the workshop. And I don't want to add anything to that.
Yes, it's I think the center of all this work with puppets for Michael and for many others is the animation. It's bringing life to something that is dead. So yeah. But also there was a German literature critic who said there's only two themes in literature, and I think it's the same for theater. It's death and love. So it's also in our shows. Of course, death is an important theme in many shows, but not in every single one. So it was a little bit by coincidence that you saw so many skeletons now in the shows. It was the shows we chose. There are also some without a skeleton.
Yeah, great. So yes, thank you. And we can have one last question from the chat box from Jennifer. And it is, how long do you take to prepare an act? How long do you take to prepare an act? Prepare and show or something, but preparing a performance. Or maybe you can.
It's different. Where you think there it starts to prepare it. Sometimes it starts with an idea and it takes 6 years to start with building something, but your brain is already working on that all the time. Or you think, okay, with the first day of the rehearsal it starts, or with the first day of building a puppet, what I never can say because I'm always building something. But in the classical way, I would say it's a minimum. It's something like 6 weeks working together in the group. Then you have a nice movement in that. That's like a classical rehearsal period. But for puppet theater, there needs much more time around with building the things. But then I would say that's a nice thing. You also can rehearse too long. So it doesn't make sense to rehearse, for me, 6 years. But to build 6 years, it's wonderful, and it's necessary sometimes in puppet theater. The building things are much longer for me.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think now I can request all the participants to please turn on their video so that we can see everyone and have a group picture. Lovely. From every corner we are having today.
Can we
Let's see.
request more people to put on their cameras, please?
Requesting others also to turn on your cameras.
Yes. We have Sangeeta Ji, Sangeeta Vishwas, Manjari Rain, Binal Kanti. Is it possible to turn your camera on? Chandrima, Rajita, Purabi, Kalita, Sanjeev Kumar, Rakesh Kumar, Isabel, Dipti, Krishna. Okay, so we can have a nice shot. So Figuren. So I would like to invite Anubhav ma'am to say last word to the guests today. Yeah.
Thank you so very much, Michelle and Charlotte. We have been wanting to have you over for years and years and years. And finally, even though not physically, digitally, we get to see your work. And I hope we can see a show very soon. Maybe the Ranga Shankara show, but maybe also some of your shows. And it's wonderful to see a lot of people today. We've never had 100 registrations before. And almost 40 people at some point in the meeting. Thank you everyone for being here. Just to say that please do come for all of these events in the future as well. It's always wonderful to see the community together. It's wonderful to see the interest even outside of the community. We would suggest follow the Unima newsletters. We have a journal called Sutradhar, which comes out every year, twice a year. A free online copy is available on our website. We have a website which has the training programs. There are master classes. There's a foundation program for new puppeteers. There is master classes for puppeteers who've been working for a while and want to refresh their knowledge. The master classes are with masters from across the world. Hopefully someday we can have the two of you back to teach a master class. And thank you again. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. Do see the website, those who haven't. Do follow the Instagram page. There's a Facebook page. And do follow the newsletter, because you might think puppeteers, you don't know about the puppeteer in your region, but the newsletter lists all the active puppeteers in different cities and towns in the country. It's almost works like a directory. So thank you all again one more time. Thank you, Ratnamala and Manish, for organizing this time after time and the newsletter. And let's hope we have a very good attendance the next time. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you
And
also again from us. Thank you for inviting us and thank you very much for joining. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining again. And we already shared this screen. You can have this. If you have any query, you can reach us anytime. You can write to us puppeteertrust@gmail.com. And if you want to reach our guest presenter today, so we are putting their contact in the chat box. You can just copy or write it down. You can see here. It says info@figurentheater-wildevogel.de and www.figurentheater-wildevogel.de. So thank you for joining today. It was a lovely session attended so far. And yeah, we have Charlotte and Michelle from Figurentheater. Thank you.
Thank you, one and all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.